everyone. My name is Mrs. Higdon, and today we are going to be learning about unit rate of change and proportions, and we're going to do some graphing and do some tables. It's going to be super exciting. But before we go into that, we are going to be looking at, we're going to answer this question. Who here gets an allowance? Oh, wait, back up. Who here knows what an allowance is? Okay. An allowance is kind of like a set amount of money that your parents or someone will give you for doing chores. It can be like make your bed, do the dishes, do your laundry, and if you do that during the week, at the end of the week, you'll get rewarded from it. So, does anyone here get an allowance? Okay, how much allowance do you get? $10, reasonable. What if you wanted to buy a new phone and that costs $200? How would you know how long it would take you to save up to get $200 based off earning $10 a week? That's a question that we're going to be able to answer here. Our learning objective is students will be able to analyze relationships to compare outcomes. They will use tables, graphs to compare situations and determine the fastest growing relationship. So by the end of today's lesson, you'll know all this. Some vocabulary words, these are kind of review. I'm going to go over them and then you're going to take 2 minutes and go over with your partner. The additive relationship, constant of proportionality, multiplicative relationship, proportional relationship, unit rate, slope, rate of change, constant ratio, slope triangle, and y-intercept. So take 2 minutes, chat with your buddies. Here's a table too, and here's a graph. I want to hear you guys kind of talking about it, reviewing with each other. Great. Okay, so we're going to go back. You guys can open up your slide deck and you can find the slide. We're going to go back to thinking about money and saving money. We're going to use this jar, and to start with, you don't have any money. Your jar is empty. You're going to be 0 days, and on a graph, it's going to look like 0, 0. And then in one day, day 1, you get 3 pennies. So you're going to put 3 pennies in the jar. You're going to add 3 over on this table, and you're going to then you're going to do the next day. So day 2, you get 3 more pennies. So now if you count your pennies, you're going to have 6 in the jar. You're going to add that over on your graph. You're going to move 6. And then for day 3, you're going to get 3 more pennies. And that's going to look like 9 pennies in your jar. You're going to move over to the table. And I didn't have the illustrations of jars up here, but can anyone guess what's going to happen on day 4? How many pennies do you think you're going to get? Correct. You're going to get 12 pennies. And what I did over here, I illustrated, so when this is the 0, the x is the days, this is your x-axis, this is your y-axis. And so on day 1, we went up to the amount of pennies, we went up to 3. On day 2, we went up to 6 pennies. On day 3, we went to 9, and you guys just gave me the information. For day 4, we went up to 12. And so we're going to ask ourselves this question. What happened each day? Yes, thank you. We gained 3 pennies. If we were going to write an equation for this, does anyone know how to write it? It's okay if you don't. I put it up here, but we're going to talk more about it. We're going to do another example. Okay, so this day we're going to start with 0 pennies, but we're actually only going to get 2 pennies a day. So we're not earning as much money on this day. So we're starting with 0, and you guys, this slide, you can actually be the ones moving the pennies over while we're talking. So you can move the pennies to the different jars, and eventually your slide will look like this. So you can see on the first day, we don't have any pennies. On the second day, we have 2 pennies. On on the first day. On the second day, we have 4 pennies. On the third day, how many pennies do we have? Thank you. Yes, we have 6 pennies. So we're going to take that information and we're going to put it on our chart, and it's going to have 0 and 0, 1 and 2. Does anyone want to? We're going to hop down to 4. Who has 4 filled out? Yes, you have 8 pennies. So we're going to ask ourselves this question: what happened each day? The jars got 2 new pennies. Yes, so every day the jars got 2 new pennies. We were able to illustrate in this chart. Can anyone write an equation with this information? Yes, y equals 2x. And then I want to go over the graph with everyone. So we're going to our days, and we're at 0, 0. And then we're going to go to the first day, and it's going to go up to 2 pennies. The pennies are on the side again. The days are on the x-axis. This is the y-axis. And then for number 2, yes, we're going up 2 more to 4. And then for 3, how many pennies do we get on day 3? Yes, we got 6. So you're going to do this all the way. Good job. So now we have another day. We're gonna just get 1 penny a day. So we're gonna look at what this looks like. So you guys can move your pennies to the different jars, and we're gonna fill out this table together. So on the first day, well, we start with 0. So again, we have 0, 0 in our chart. We have 0, 0 as our access point. And we have one penny on day 1. How many on day 2? 2 pennies, yes. On day 3, how many? Yes, we have 3 pennies. You're gonna drag them over. Take this information, fill out your chart. Can anyone tell me on day 10 how many pennies we have? Yes, we have 10 pennies. So what happened each day? Yes, we added 1 penny to a jar. And this is a tricky one. Who can tell me the equation for this one? Yes, thank you. Y equals 1x. And then don't forget to do our graph. Our graph, again, our x-axis has the days. Our y-axis has the amount of pennies. And you're gonna go 1 over, 1 up, 1 over, 1 up. Great job. So let's pause before we go on to another one. We are gonna look at, we're gonna answer this question. When you're adding each day, what does that represent? So when you're adding something each day, what does that represent? It actually represents the slope. So when you're adding every day, that's the slope. It's creating the slope. Look at the tables on each slide. What relationships do you notice between the tables and the graph? So let's go back to that one. So we're looking at the table and we're comparing it to the graph. And what do you notice is the same? Yes, as the days go higher, the pennies also go higher. The pennies change too. That's great. Back to the questions. Go back to slide 3. Look closely at the numbers in the table. How are the numbers going up? How does that compare to the relationship on the graph? So we're going to go back again. So on this table, for every day, day 1, day 2, day 3, how much does the penny grow by? Yes, it goes adding 1. So they're adding 1. And then when we're over looking at the graph, it's 1 day and then 1, 1 and 1. Yes, it's a pattern of 1 and 1, 1 and 1. So what I did here is I put all of the graphs, all of the slopes on the same graph. And so let's see if we can figure out which slope went which each of the days that we were just talking about. So if anyone can remember, the first day we added 3 pennies a day. Does anyone know what line that is? Yeah, it's the red line. And it goes higher. You are getting more pennies, so arching up, and then we have, who knows the second day? Who wants to take a guess? Yeah, it's the blue line. So that's when we're going up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. And that one's this one, and then the last one, day 3, when we just got 1 penny a day. Yeah, so we are going up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. On this slide, where does the pattern continue? So what we're talking about here is we're talking about the change in y. So that's the change in y over the change in x. So it's the vertical change in y over the horizontal change in x. So there is a change from this point to this point, and that's 1, 2, 3, and then the change in x, which is going from here to here. So that is what's happening right here. There is a change, a vertical change, and then we're putting that over the horizontal change. What if you go from day 2 to day 5? So if we go all the way, here's day 2, here's this point, and we're going all the way up to day 5. What would happen? Yeah, there would be a big vertical change. The vertical change would be 9. Oh, I don't have a slide. So you guys can write this down. There's a vertical change of 9. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then the change, the horizontal change would be 1, 2, 3. So you can write, that would look like 9 over 3. And when you simplify it, we get the 3 over 1. So that change is called the slope. That is the slope. And it can tell us how steep a line is going to be. There is a constant rate of change. So the vertical change, the change in y, is what we just did, the 3 over the 9 over 3, and then the horizontal change, the change in x, that goes on the bottom. Can someone tell me another fraction you got from that table? When you look back on your slide that has from when you got 3 pennies a day, what's another proportion? Yeah, 6 over 2. And that's when you had 6 pennies on day 2. Great. It's a ratio describing the vertical change over the horizontal change. So the same relationship can be found in the table and equation. So when we go look back at our table, right here, we're doing the change in y over the change in x. So again, we're looking back at our graph, and we're taking the point of on day 3 minus day 2. So on day 3, what was it? On day 3, you had 9 pennies. So that is day 3, and you had 9 pennies. And then when you compare it with day 2, so day 2, you had 6 pennies, and you subtract them from each other, you will get 3 over 1. And that is how you get your slope. So now we're going to do some practice problems together. So our first practice problem is a table, and I'm asking you if the x is 2 and the y is 8 for 1, and then the x is 3 and the y is 12, what is another proportion and what is that slope? Okay, does anyone want to volunteer? That's great. Yeah, so it would be 8 over 2, and then you would simplify that to 4 over 1. That would be the slope, 4 over 1. The vertical change over the horizontal change. And what would the equation be for number 1? Yes, it would be y equals 4x. So we have our x and our y, and we have on day 1, we have x is 1, y is 7, then we have x is 2, y is 14. So what would that look like? What does this look like? 7 over 1. And then who can tell me what the equation is? Yes. Y equals 7x. Great. Now we have some graphs. And we are going to find the slope from the graph. So you guys are going to have to, we're going to look at the slope, and we're always going to start at the origin, the 0, 0, and we're going to find the vertical change, so how much the vertical change, and then we're going to go over to the horizontal change. So who can count and tell me what the what that is? Yes. Yeah. 4 over 1. So the slope is 4 over 1. Can we put that in an equation? Y equals 4x. Now for number 3, again, we're finding the change in the vertical change over the horizontal change. Thank you. The answer is the slope. It's 1 over 4. And what is the equation? Yes, it is y equals 1/4 x. You guys did really good on that. We're going to do a couple more practice problems together, and then we're going to do it on your own. Okay, this is a word problem. Don't be scared. We're going to work through it together, and then, and if you have questions afterwards, I'll be here to help you, okay? A maple tree seed is planted, and the tree grows 2 feet per month. Create a table that could represent the tree's height, graph those points on the graph, and create a rule that represents the tree. So we are going to do our box again. And what do we have on one side? We have the month, and we have our height, right? Height, yeah. So we know that a maple tree seed is planted and the tree grows 2 feet per month. So in 1 month, how many feet does it grow? Yes, it grows 2 feet. And so then if we go to 2 months, how tall has it grown? Yes, it has grown 4 feet. And so 3 months, how many? 6. And then you can just call it out. In 4 months, how tall has this tree grown? Yes, 8 feet. Who thinks they can come up with an equation for this? Love it. Okay, yes. Y equals 2x. And so we're going to do the same thing. You guys are going to graph it. What are we going to put on the x-axis? We're going to put the months. And what are we going to put on the y-axis? The height, okay? And we want to make a rule. So every month, the tree grows by 2 feet. So that is our rule. Any questions? Okay, you guys are doing a great job. Now we are going to have some practice on your own. I printed out this copy for everyone. I'm gonna pass it out. I will circulate if you have any questions. We'll go over it. And then if you finish, well, when you're working independently, you can ask your neighbor. And then if that doesn't work out, you can raise your hand and I'll come and help you, okay? And then if you finish, if you don't need any help, you are welcome to go to these websites. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna explore. There's gonna be more problems, and there's one that's kind of a game, so it's pretty fun. So just click on those. Okay, let's work on this, and we'll check back in about 10 minutes. Okay, you guys did great. I really feel like you are understanding this concept. We are gonna have, there's an exit ticket, and that is on this graph. You are just gonna find the slope in the equation. So you can do that, you can be working on that. I just wanted to close this out. Today we learned when two quantities, x and y, vary in a way that one of them is a constant multiple of the other, the two quantities are proportional. The slope of a proportional relationship can be determined by finding the unit rate. The slope of a line is a rate of change, a ratio describing the vertical change to horizontal change of that line. Okay, thank you everyone. I hope you had a great day.